What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? BizzyDad here, you there, checking out the latest deck build video. And before I say another word, bring me my newest subscribers coming in right at the bottom. Thank you guys so much for hitting that subscribe button. I really appreciate it. I love getting the notifications. You have a new sub, you have a new sub. It definitely means a lot. I love seeing that count climb, and it just keeps me going, gives me the motivation. So to the new guys, thank you. To the old guys, thank you. To the super old guys, thank you. And ladies, can't forget them. And I just want to say thank you to everybody for giving me the shot, subscribing to me, checking out my videos, and letting me give you guys some good content. I hope you guys enjoy it. There's so much to talk about and always so much to do with this game. It's a very exciting time for this game. And that's a good segue into Vingolf 3, which is coming out later this week. Can't wait to get my boxes, do an unboxing video for you guys. But before those new cards come in and new combos and new decks and everything, I wanted to put up one more deck profile to give you guys something fun, something creative, something unique to possibly run with your friends or maybe at your store, just to kind of have some fun. And can you just picture being able to hit your opponent at the end of the first turn for 2,000, take half their life away on the first turn? Isn't that nice? All right, maybe not 2,000. What about 1,300? That's nice too. Maybe even 1,000 at the end of the first turn. Yeah, that is nice too. But guess what? This deck gives you the opportunity to do just that. It really is cool, and it is, I think it's unique, but hey, who knows? But just like all of my decks, check it out all the way through, then let me know what you think. And let's jump into the profile for the deck I call Mars the Manhunter. And this was featured on the latest FoW Faceoff. I will put a link to that matchup in the description below. It is a black-red deck with our ruler, Mars, Fortuneteller of the Firestar, a 7 Luminaries Mage ruler, Judgment of 3, 2 red and 1 of other. He, of course, energizes for 1 red if you go second, and has a mana of 2. So as the game begins, you put 2 mana counters on Mars. You can remove a mana counter to produce red. However, you can only spend that will to play Ancient Magic cards. So, of course, this deck is going to have Ancient Magic cards in it, and we are going to use those counters to our advantage in combination with our burn spells, of course, because it's red, and in combination to some life loss and life gain tricks in here to distract our opponent. We have a lot of moving parts, but the deck works really well and can work extremely fast. So let's pay the 2 in 1. We're going to J activate and flip him over. Becomes Mars Dark Commander of Fire. So no surprise, a Dark Commander J ruler. 1,000 attack and defense with a mana of 5. And that just means when you J activate and flip Mars over, you get another 5 mana counters on Mars. Now, as this card enters your field, you may remove a card named Demon of the Crest, Namblot, in your hand from the game. And if you do, this card enters your field with 5 mana counters on it. So the wording is a little confusing. It doesn't mean that in order to get the 5 by the mana keyword that you have to get rid of the Namblot. No, if you get rid of Namblot from your hand and remove it from the game, you get another 5 mana counters. So the potential to get 10 mana counters when you J activate with Mars and then remove Namblot from your hand and remove it from the game. This card will gain first strike as long as a card named Demon of the Crest Namblot is in your removed area and was removed by this card. So you have to remove the Namblot. You'll get the first strike. You can't be playing against a Dark Alice and a Dark Alice removes Namblot from your graveyard from the game and then Mars gets first strike. That's not how it works. He's got to be there by removing it on the J activate. And again, remove a mana counter from this card to produce red. Spend this will only to play Ancient Magic cards. So good to see that the ability is on both sides. It's one of our key winners to be able to use those mana counters. So this is a definite strong ruler, surprisingly strong ruler, because that 1,000 with first strike is pretty nice. And just the mana counters building up. And then if he's not swinging at you, he's using those mana counters. So it definitely opens up some creative options. Stone base is first, and I said this is a black-red deck, so of course, 4 copies of Magic Stone of Scorched Bales. This is going to give us access to both red and black. We're going to run 5 basic dark stones, and we are going to cap it off with 1 basic Firestone. Now, I put the basic stone in here, so I have 5 stones that give me access to red. So half the stone deck is going to give us access to fire, which could come in handy. So we're gonna let's get into the Resonator lineup, and this is the first part of our super combo, which we will get into more detail later. But it's 4 copies of Shadow of Lapis. It is a 1-drop fantasy Resonator, 1 dark to play, 200 attack, 400 defense, and if you banish this card, put a token copy of a target Resonator token you control into your field. So if you have the Shadow of Lapis on the field and you have a token on the field, you could banish the Shadow of Lapis and it becomes a copy of the token that's on the field. Very key ability right there. Like I said, this is part of our killer combo, and we'll get into that later on when we see the rest of it. Here is 4 copies of Demon of the Crest Namblot. This is a 7 Luminaries Demon Resonator, 2 red to play, 500 attack and defense with swiftness. And when this card enters your field, it deals 400 damage to target J Resonator if your J ruler is Mars, either of the Mars. So obviously you're going to run him with Mars. Why wouldn't you? But he comes out, he hits somebody for 400 right away, and he has swiftness. He could swing for 5/5 if the chance is there to do some damage. And at the end of turn, return this card to its owner's hand. So here today, gone in a flash. Namblot comes out, burns somebody for 4, swings for 5 if necessary, and then pops right back into your hand at the end of the turn. And that is a pretty good perk because you need Namblot in your hand when you J-activate to remove him from the game, so you get the mana counter. So good little tech there. 3 copies of Scion of Ancient Lore. Here's a fun card. This is a 3-drop Vampire Resonator, 2 dark and 1 to play, 700 attack and defense. And when this card enters your field, it deals 400 damage to your opponent, and you gain 400 life. So definitely a good card. Comes in a 7/7 body, is not bad, but you can basically, it's a vampire, so he's draining, he's blood sucking. He's going to take 400 from your opponent, and you are going to gain 400 life. It really does its purpose right on enter, and this is one of our distraction cards. We're going to keep our opponent busy with a card like this. He's going to have to deal with him, and at the same time, he's going to lose some life when he comes in. Then finally, I like to get that Vingolf 2 working wherever I can. So here's 4 copies of Baldren Gassenarl. This is a 3-drop military or Galian army Resonator. Another 3-drop, 1 dark, 2 other to play. Again, 700 attack and defense. But when this card when this card is put into a graveyard from your field, your opponent loses 400 life. So now you can see our little distraction package, our life gain and life loss package here. The Scion is going to hit our opponent for 400 just coming in. Baldren Gassenarl is going to hit our opponent for 400 on the way out. So this is a really good combo, really good 1-2 punch in the mid game to keep your opponent busy. And you can run 4 copies of the Scion and 3 copies of Baldren Gassenarl. It really just comes to preference. I run the 4 copies because as much as the Scion could get canceled on coming in, I guess they both can, but just the fact that when Baldren Gassenarl dies, your opponent's going to lose that life, and it's more likely that he's going to get put into a graveyard. We also have ways of making that happen, as you'll see in just a second. But again, just that combination of life gain and life loss while the game is going on. And that's it for Resonators. It's not a very heavy Resonator lineup. So let's get into our Regalia. We're going to run 3 copies of Laevateinn, the Demon Sword. A ton of text on this card, but this is a pretty good Regalia for us. It gives your J-Ruler swiftness, so Mars could swing right away. If you rest it until the end of turn, if your J-Ruler would deal damage, it deals that much plus 200 instead. So a good way to pump Mars up. You can, if you know you're going to J-activate, you can rest before recovery, and then recover, and then after Mars J-activates, you can rest it again. That would make Mars deal 1,400 damage with swiftness, and if you had the Namblot and removed it from the game, it's swiftness and first strike at 1,400. That is really good. Also text on there for Melgus, but we don't have Melgus. If you banish a Resonator, you can recover this card. So that is where being able to pitch Baldren Gassenarl comes in handy, and I actually saw that in the matchup. So tried to come after him, try to target Baldren Gassenarl, and we use Laevateinn to just banish it and recover. But then, of course, he hit the graveyard and you lose 400 life. So definitely comes in handy. If you discard another Laevateinn, you produce red. And if you banish it, your J Ruler gains imperishable until the end of the turn. It is a super, super strong card. And sad to see this go because this is currently banned in the Wanderer format. And once Alice Cluster shifts out, this is going to be permanently banned too. Excuse me. So, spells and abilities, right? It is a magic deck, it is a burn deck, and it's a red deck. So, of course, you're going to see 4 copies of Lightning Strike. It's a 1-drop quick cast chant. You can do it at any time. And this card, you choose one. This card deals 500 damage to target J Resonator, or this card deals 500 damage to your opponent at any time. Like I said, if you run red, you definitely run Lightning Strike. It's just a staple. 4 copies. Ancient Heartfelt Fire. This is a chant, a quick cast chant, so you can do it at any time, but it is an ancient magic. So now we're starting to see the cards that Mars can use his mana counters for in order to do. And you choose one. This card deals 400 damage to target J Resonator, or put 3 mana counters on your J Ruler. So both are pretty handy, of course, but putting the 3 mana counters on Mars could be really critical, especially since we're focusing on ancient magic cards in this deck too. But it's quick cast. You can do it at any time. And if your opponent has a threat on the board that's 400, you can just use this card to get rid of it. So really good utility card. And I think 4 copies is good. It's good to run 4. 4 copies of Blood Boil, another burn card, another strong one. So it's a instant. It's a chant instant. You can do it at any time. 1 red, 1 other to play, and you have choices. The card will either deal 600 damage to your opponent, or your opponent cannot gain life until the end of the turn, or target Resonator you control gains +8/+8 until the end of turn, but at the next end of turn, destroy that Resonator. And that's another good perk for Baldren Gassenarl. If you have Gassenarl on the field, we could swing at our opponent for 700. If they accept the damage and we have the 2, we can then, in response to no block, play Blood Boil. Give Baldren Gassenarl +8/+8. He becomes a 15/15. That damage goes through to our opponent. And at the next end of turn, we destroy Baldren Gassenarl. It hits the graveyard, and then our opponent loses 400 life. So in that one play, we've hit our opponent for 1900. That's basically half his life. And by the time Baldren Gassenarl can get on the field, turn 3, turn 4, turn 5 with this play, that could be the game. The game could be over just like that. So something to keep in mind, instead of just burning your opponent directly, could be a little creative, tack on some extra damage to a card like Baldren Gassenarl, and that could be a game ender when it's all said and done. So 4 copies of Invitation of Disaster. This is a really heavy ancient magic card. You could drop this down to 3 and maybe put another Scion of Ancient Lore. This is really just preference. I run 4 of these because I want to see these. I want to get one of these in my hand. So it is a 3-drop ancient magic off the bat, 2 red and 1 to play. So this is a chant. You can only do this on your turn, and you get to choose 1. This card deals 800 damage to target Resonator, but if the card was awakened, it deals 2,000 damage instead. Or this card deals 800 damage to your opponent. If it's awakened, it deals 2,000 damage instead, and we have the awakening cost at the bottom of 8. So 3 to cast, 8 to awaken. So you need to spend a total of 11 in order to awaken the card. But when you J-activate with Mars and you pitch Namblot to get 10 mana counters, that is how you could pull this chant off and hit your opponent directly for 2,000, which is, I mean, again, could just be the game. There's a lot of hard-hitting combos in this deck, and I know some people would prefer 3 copies or 2 copies instead of 4, but I think it's a key card, so I do run 4 copies in there. More Ancient Magic. 2 copies of World Flame Summoning, so it's another chant. You can only do this on your turn. It costs 6, 2 red and 4 other, but again, it's Ancient Magic, so you can use mana counters, and you get to choose 2. Here are your options. Your opponent banishes a special magic stone, very nice, or this card deals 800 damage to each Resonator your opponent controls. Get rid of those elves, get rid of a lot of little pesky guys on the board. 800 is nothing to sneeze at. Or or this card deals 800 damage to your opponent. Not bad. 800 right to their face. Or this card deals 1500 damage to target J Ruler. So this is a really good card. And the argument could be made to run 3 Invitation of Disasters and 3 World Flame Summonings. Again, it's just preference. To me, there's no right or wrong way. But you get to choose 2 of them with this card. And again, that could wipe a board. That could kill a J Ruler. That can make somebody get rid of a special stone. Or it could just hit them in the face for 800. So really strong card. And for 6, it's very playable when you're combining your stones with mana counters. So this card can see a lot of play. Finally is the last part of the super combo and one of the superstars of the deck, and it's 4 copies of the Conjure Time Bomb. This is another chant. You can only do it on your turn, but it is ancient magic. So it has an original cost of 2, 1 red and 1 other. And you put a 100/100 Firebomb Resonator token into your field that has the following text. At the beginning of your turn, banish this card. If you do, it deals 1000 damage to your opponent and each J Resonator your opponent controls. So it is a bomb, literally, explodes for 1000, hits your opponent's entire board for 1000, and hits your opponent for 1000 as well, which is super strong. However, there is an awakening. If you pay 2 red and 1 other, so that's 3 plus the 2, so 5 will make this a fully awakened time bomb. That same token goes into your field, but the text says at the end of your turn, you banish this card. And if you do, it deals 1000 damage to your opponent and each J Resonator your opponent controls. So the regular time bomb by itself, you have to wait until your next beginning of turn to banish it. But if you awaken the time bomb, you can banish it right there at the end of your turn. And here is what we're talking about with the combo. Even though Mars has Energize, you would like to go first if you win the dice roll. And you want to mulligan very, very hard to get in your opening hand the Conjure Time Bomb and the Shadow of Lapis. These are the 2 cards we really, really want to see in our opening hand when we go first. Because if we do, we could pull off this combination. So we go first. And what we do is we spend both of Mars' mana counters right off the bat to play the Conjure Time Bomb. Okay, so now this is not Awaken. This is going to give us our bomb token. There he is. There's the bomb. So our bomb token goes into the field. And then we pay 1 and we pay the Shadow of Lapis. Here's the dream combo right here. We then pass to our opponent. Our opponent is going to draw and grab a stone. And if there is no way to get rid of any of these Resonators, they're in for a world of hurt. Because then at the end of their turn, we're going to banish the Shadow of Lapis. It's going to become a copy of a target Resonator on the field. So I only have 1 token. So in essence, we now have 2 time bombs at the end of their turn. It then goes to the beginning of our turn. We're going to banish both, and our opponent's board is going to be hit for 2000. And then our opponent himself or herself, ladies, even you, will get hit for 2000 right to the face at the end of the first turn, which is just, wow, half your life gone, and you haven't even made a play. Now, obviously, if you're going up against like a Mikage deck, somebody that can just ping the tokens out, then this is not your ideal strategy. Maybe your opponent can get rid of 1. Maybe they can Lightning Strike or Unseen Pressure or anything like that. Maybe they can get 1. Odds are they can't get both. And every now and then they can't get rid of any. So the bomb becomes such an all-star. And then as the game goes on, as you're building mana counters and you're building up will, you get that opportunity to awaken the time bomb and sneak him in there. And at the end of the turn, just blow up the field and hit our opponent for 1000. So, I mean, it's a really versatile card. It can hit our opponent, which is nice. That 1000 can clear the board, especially with elves and everything like that. So 1,000 to sneeze at. It's a really strong card. People that I play with aren't big fans of it. I don't know why. I love the Conjure Time Bomb. So that is it for the main deck, and we go into sideboard. My sideboards are always situational. Plug and play as you need. I just kind of put cards in there just in case. Now, if you go up against somebody that could take care of the bomb token or just anything else just to switch up your play. So here's some potential sideboard cards for you. It's 3 copies of the Combat Wizard of Altea. So here's a Wizard Resonator, 1 red to play, 300 attack, 200 defense. And when this card enters your field, put a mana counter on your J Ruler. So just a little more help to get those counters on Mars to play the big Ancient Magic cards. If you remove a mana counter from your J Ruler, this card gains Swiftness until the end of turn. So Swiftness for 300. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's a way to end the game or just get rid of a pesky Resonator who's rested, potentially. But really, we want to use him just to get the mana counter on Mars. Here's 3 copies of the Sanguine Arena, or the Sanguine Arena. I don't know how to pronounce that one. This is a 1-drop addition, so 1 red to play. It's an addition, just sits on the field, and you rest it. This card deals 200 damage to each Resonator. However, you can play this ability only if you control a Resonator. So think about going up against the Elves and just a bunch of little pains out there. You'll need a Resonator on the field. So maybe a card like the Scion of Ancient Lore, or Baldren Gassenarl. If we have our Scion on the field and we have our Sanguine Arena, we can rest it, hit everybody for 200. You're going to hit your own guys too, but again, if you're playing Elves and anybody else little on the other side, they all get hit for 200. You can also rest it before recovery, hit them for 2, recover, call a stone, hit it again, you hit everybody for 2 again, and that could get rid of some 400s. Just good little spot removal. Especially in the early game against those Elves, those pesky Elves. 3 copies of Alhamat's Black Lightning. This is Ancient Magic as well, but if you notice, it's Ancient Magic for black. So you can't use Mars mana counters for this. Keep that in mind. You might be able to use it for the Awakening. We'll get to that. But this card cannot be canceled. That is really strong. Now, it could be chased, but it can't be canceled. So, destroy target non-darkness Resonator. As simple as that. Anybody that's not a darkness Resonator is gone, and you can't cancel the spell, but you could chase it. So in other words, you can pitch that Resonator back to your hand, or you could do something to shift it, move it around, get rid of it. It could dodge the destruction, but you can't cancel this spell. Now, if the card was awakened, put it into its owner's hand as it resolves, which is pretty sweet. So for another 4, 1 dark and 3 more, that's how you awaken it. So it's a 6-drop in order to awaken it. But basically, you play it with the Awakening, you destroy a non-darkness Resonator. If there's no response after it resolves, it goes right back into your hand, and you can play it again that turn, next turn. I'm assuming that we're going to eventually see a Dark Ruler that uses Ancient Magic, and that's where this will come into play. But it's a pretty good one shot to get rid of a non-darkness Resonator like those Gwybers or any of those big dragons or any big threat. That was the big threat. Now here's how we deal with the smaller threats. It's 3 copies of Flame Trap. This is a standby card, so you put it in your standby area face down for 2, and you wait for the trigger. And the trigger is you control a Fire Magic Stone, and your opponent controls 4 or more Resonators. This thing then pops out of the standby area, and this card deals 800 damage to each Resonator your opponent controls. So great way to wipe the board if you're playing against somebody who likes to put up a board presence. Here's a good way to just wipe them out, especially since we don't run too many Resonators. Like I said, it's a heavy spell deck. Finally, it's 3 copies of Maribel the Steel Doll. So we have a Regalia in this deck. And if your J Ruler would be dealt damage, prevent 200 of it, which is kind of nice. For 5, this card becomes a 1,000 machine Resonator until the end of the turn, but it's still a Regalia, so just kind of make me in a desperation move. You could pay the 5 and get Maribel out there to swing, but her most important ability is to pop Regalia. If you pay 1 and rest and banish Maribel, you destroy a target Regalia, so it does give her that strength there if you go up against a heavy Regalia deck. Here's a way to get Maribel out there and just pop one out. It could help, definitely, in a pinch to do its job. She can also turn into a Resonator, which is good too. So, guys, that is it. The profile for Mars the Manhunter. It's fun. It's definitely fun to play, but I want to know what you think about it. You like this deck? Do you hate it? Let me know with a comment below. Love our discussion. You know that. Like, share, subscribe. You know that too. We got more videos coming all the time. There's a lot of stuff always in the works. So, as always, guys, thanks for a few minutes, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.